What's up, monkey fans? I guess, or maybe dragon fans this time of year. So yeah, it is that time of year. My wife just had her birthday, so here's her annual dragon for her birthday drawing that I do, that she can use as her PC wallpaper, because she sits at her computer a lot for work, so trying to brighten up her life a little bit. Anyway, this particular dragon here clocked in at close to 30 hours. It was a bit of a struggle. I started off with a different idea in my head several weeks before I started working on this, and then one night, as I was struggling to fall asleep, as is usually the case, my brain just said, what about a snail? I keep a running list of potential animals to mash together with a dragon for this annual project, and interestingly, snail was nowhere to be found on my list. It kind of gave me a paradoxically clear vision of what it should look like, but it was also pretty vague in terms of, details and composition and stuff. So at that point, I kind of figured I had to go with the idea and try to figure out how to make it work. All of these dragon illustrations I do, I've kind of come to think of as like first drafts. I do have some semblance of an idea of doing this kind of epic field guide for this planet of dragons. I explained this in a previous video, so I won't get into it too much here, but basically, some planet, this dragon species becomes an intergalactic species, finds a new planet, they're escaping from something, their planet's dying, war or something, I don't know. But anyway, they set up shop there, and they terraform the planet, and either intentionally or accidentally, over millennia, evolution takes place, and the dragons, being the sole source of life on the planet, common ancestor for all these other creatures that evolve. So anyway, that's the idea. All of these illustrations that I do every year for my wife, like I said, they're kind of like first drafts in my mind. If I get around to doing that book at some point, I will be revisiting the designs of all of the dragons to try to see how I can tweak them or push them. One of the things I always struggle with, because I approach this in sort of a stream of consciousness, just sit down with a vague idea and draw and see where the drawing takes me. Sometimes I lean too heavily on the reference or the source animal that I'm making my chimera from. Sometimes it's a little too heavily dragon influenced. Sometimes it's sort of like a 50-50 mash of the animal and the dragon, and it looks either too cartoonish or not sophisticated in my mind. I kind of really want to push the boundaries, take cues from life on Earth, obviously, because that's what I know, and, kind of try to push the envelope, come up with ways things could occur similarly or different or whatever, as far as evolution goes. The other sort of challenge this year is that I ended up having surgery on my left thumb. I'm right-handed, so not a huge, impediment, but, surgery does still knock you for a loop, and I got recovery time and all that to deal with. I started working on this before I had my surgery, didn't quite finish by the time of my surgery, had surgery, took a couple of days off, and then got back in the studio. I did finish on my wife's birthday, but not until after she had gone to bed, and I think I finally, called it done and went and put it on her PC at just before midnight on her birthday. So she saw it the next day. If you're curious about my my surgery, I had a stupid accident with a knife when I was doing a house project, cutting some rigid insulation. Ended up going to the ER, obviously, because it was a bad cut. Now, I know that I saw my tendon through the cut, and I know that it was damaged. ER didn't really believe me, didn't really address it. Just stitched me up. After a few weeks of, going back, getting the stitches, having them look at it again, they just, wait till it heals more. Ended up going with my wife to one of her appointments and had the doctor there just take a quick look at it, and they said, you should go for an MRI. So, 4 weeks after the accident, I have an MRI. That says, or 3 weeks after, yes, it is severed. Had to make an appointment to go see an orthopedic guy. Went and saw him. He said, I need to send you to a hand specialist. Went to see the hand specialist. Finally, by the time I had surgery, we're at 6.5 weeks from the injury. Amazingly, the tendon was still in good enough shape that he was able to reattach it without having to harvest a tendon from somewhere else in my hand, so I'm pretty happy about that. And I'm not in too much pain at this point. Things are healing. Got my occupational therapy things to go to and starting to do some exercises to regain some mobility and flexibility there. It's all kind of weird, and it's, definitely hampering my ability to work the way I normally work. Like I said, I am right-handed, but I do use my left hand a lot. When I'm working on the Inktober drawings and stuff, my left hand is what spins my paper around and holds, erasers or other pens that I'm using at the time. Obviously, when I work digitally, left hand is doing all the hotkeys and stuff. So I am having to relearn how to do a few things so I can still be productive. And certainly, it's an impact to my ability to be physically active. But I'm dealing. Every day that goes by, I'm that much closer to the end of my recovery. So anyway, at this point in the video, it's kind of tough to see what's going on because I'm doing what I normally do, which is getting hyper-focused on details and zooming in way the heck too far, working on things that you can't see unless you also zoom in really close. That's just kind of the way I work. Dead air there. I'm just kind of watching my own video as I'm trying to record this audio. So, every time I work on one of these, I try to push my boundaries, push my limits, try to grow as an artist. I often run into that wall where I'm struggling. I know what I want it to look like, but I don't quite know how to get it to look like what I see in my head. Whether it's, lighting in particular is something I struggle with, and I really got to do a lot more practicing and studying and reading and watching videos, and, there's only so much time. All right. I guess that's the end of the video at this point, showing off some of the zoom-ins. You can see a few of those details that I was talking about, playing around with textures and things like that. But I really like the way the secondary dragon snail came out, that texture on his chest. But anyway, do what the monkey says, and I'll see you next year.